Understand, I want to give you some timelines and what happened here. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about your local police and fire efforts here. They did an outstanding job. I'm going to give you some timelines. You have basically the Rosebud down here. Your fire agency has 5 engines, okay? They have 7 total that they can get out, all right? And they also, your local volunteer fire departments. On the 19th of July, before we even came into the picture here, at 2 a.m., this agency over here, your Rosebud agency, responded to the porcupine fire. That was the 19th at 2 a.m. in the morning. They had 57 acres on fire, so they worked diligently to get that out, right? Because right now we're seeing in the United States, right now in the western United States, we're seeing some of the worst and most explosive fire conditions we've ever seen. And the fuels, we got back from a fire in Mancos, Colorado, near Durango, and the fuels were as dry as they were in August, late August. That's how explosive things are. The rates of spread, Shane will get into that later a little bit, but these fires are traveling, this fire here is traveling over 2 miles an hour when it takes off. Okay? So your fire agency, they get out there and they fight on the 19th. They give it the good fight. They take on the porcupine fire. 12, then they think that's over with. So 12 a.m. the next day, you get 18 new starts here. 18 new starts. Okay? Your agency responds to it. And they realize at that time they're getting tired. They're getting tired, they're getting worn out, and they're giving it the best. You got 100-degree temperatures, low relative humidities, and you got lots of wind, and you got lots of lightning. So at 1600 hours, they order a Type 2, one of the 33 regional teams in the nation that was to go to the large fire response. That's us. Okay, we're one of the 33 teams in the nation that goes to large fire response. So 4 o'clock, we're in Rapid City, South Dakota. We get an order to mobilize. So we know how dire the situation is there. So we get on the road. We bring the command trailers. We bring all our support assets. We have to get a pre-order in. That means we order fire equipment before we even get here and additional things to support the incident. And we got here at 21:30 hours. That means that we got here at 8:30 at night. Then we had to wait for a couple of team members and we briefed that night. On the 21st, on the 20th, we got here at night, right? We got here at 8:30 at night. I know a little bit about the terrain because I was here for the horse looking fire, you know, and I was like, well, here I go back again. I'm in the St. Francis school, so that was a little disconcerting. So, twice in your career, right? And so, I get down, we get here, and so the next day, our operational people were working with the Rosebud fire people who were still in command of that fire because we don't know the turf yet. Our divisions, our operational people have never been in some of that area out there. They don't know the area, so they got a field truth, right? So they get out there and they're working with the Rosebud folks on the, and we took it the night of the 18th. I mean at 1800, 6 o'clock. 21st at 6 o'clock. Okay. So when we get into this, we placed, before we left Rapid City, we placed 5 pages of resource requests for equipment on the 21st before we left Rapid City at 12:30 p.m. in the afternoon. We got on the road. When we got here, and we took this fire, the Longhorn Complex was already 7,736 acres. That's a big fire. That's a lot of fire on the ground. There were only 12 engines that we had available to cover the 7,000 acres that was on fire here. There was only 12 engines. We only had 3 hand crews, 20-person hand crews. And we were only able to, and you can have these, I don't have enough of them, but they're incident action plans. And there was only 3 engines we could put out there that night because of when I say on the 20, when I say 12 engines, that was from before we took it to that night. And the only thing that we had left that we could put out there at night, because those guys had gone hard for those other days, and so basically we only had 3 engines to work with on a fire that was 7,736 acres. Okay, so now we say, well, why didn't they give us a bunch of resources? Well, I'm going to tell you why they didn't get resources, and that is they're coming from great distances. Okay, because we were the #2 fire in the area. The Black Hills had already started on fire. They had a fire up there called the Myrtle Fire, and at the same time, we had 12 engines. They had 9,000 acres on fire. They had 64 fire engines, and they had 6 hand crews, and they had 569 personnel assigned to the fire. So that took a lot of resources. So then when we order, where does it go? They took the closest ones because they were the biggest fire in the first one. So then engines have to come at a greater distance. The engines that are on this fire are not from, most of them from South Dakota. They're Arvada, Colorado, they're Leadville, Colorado, they're Denver, Colorado, they're Arizona. And your Rosebud folks are still assistant in fighting fire. Okay? They're still hanging in the game here on this thing. Law enforcement was incredible, you know, in getting the evacuations done. Red Cross was great doing the sheltering. And so those are some of the things that we've dealt with. It's not that we don't work, that firefighters don't want to go out and do what we do. We're trained to do that. This is my 36th year in fire, and I still like fighting fire. I still like doing good things. I still like going out and helping people in their time of need. But when you're dealt some bad weather cards, in addition to that, some of the most explosive fuel conditions right now, you're dealt that card, that isn't a favorable card for you. And then fires become beyond their threshold of control because of lack of resources. Okay? And so, when we look at this right here, this fire, I'm going to give you some good news here. Okay? I'm going to give you a little status of it. So, I want to go through a couple of things for you. We got some good news on the fire. We'll get to that towards the end of it. But I want to talk about a couple things. You know, understand, I want to give you some timelines and what happened here. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about your local police and fire efforts here. They did an outstanding job. I'm going to give you some timelines. You have basically the Rosebud down here. Your fire agency has 5 engines, okay? They have 7 total that they can get out, all right? And they also, your local volunteer fire departments. On the 19th of July, before we even came into the picture here, at 2 a.m., this agency over here, your Rosebud agency, responded to the Porcupine Fire. That was the 19th at 2 a.m. in the morning. They had 57 acres on fire, so they worked diligently to get that out, right? Because right now we're seeing in the United States, right now in the western United States, we're seeing some of the worst and most explosive fire conditions we've ever seen. And the fuels, we got back from a fire in Mancos, Colorado, near Durango, and the fuels were as dry as they were in August, late August. That's how explosive things are. The rates of spread, Shane will get into that later a little bit, but these fires are traveling, this fire here is traveling over 2 miles an hour when it takes off. Okay? So your fire agency, they get out there and they fight on the 19th. They give it the good fight. They take on the porcupine fire. 12, then they think that's over with. So 12 a.m. the next day, you get 18 new starts here. 18 new starts. Okay? Your agency responds to it. And they realize at that time they're getting tired. They're getting tired, they're getting worn out, and they're giving it the best. You got 100-degree temperatures, low relative humidities, and you got lots of wind, and you got lots of lightning. So at 1600 hours, they order a Type 2, one of the 33 regional teams in the nation that was to go to the large fire response. That's us. Okay, we're one of the 33 teams in the nation that goes to large fire response. So 4 o'clock, we're in Rapid City, South Dakota. We get an order to mobilize. So we know how dire the situation is there. So we get on the road. We bring the command trailers. We bring all our support assets. We have to get a pre-order in. That means we order fire equipment before we even get here and additional things to support the incident. And we got here at 21:30 hours. That means that we got here at 8:30 at night. Then we had to wait for a couple of team members, and we briefed that night. On the 21st, on the 20th, we got here at night, right? We got here at 8:30 at night. We didn't. I know a little bit about the terrain because I was here for the horse looking fire, you know, and I was like, well, here I go back again. I'm in the St. Francis school, so that was a little disconcerting. So twice in your career, right? And so I get down, we get here, and so the next day, our operational people were working with the Rosebud fire people who were still in command of that fire, because we don't know the turf yet. Our divisions, our operational people have never been in some of that area out there. They don't know the area, so they got a field truth, right? So they get out there and they're working with the Rosebud folks on the, and we took it the night of the 18th. I mean at 1800, 6 o'clock. 21st at 6 o'clock. Okay. So when we get into this, we placed, before we left Rapid City, we placed 5 pages of resource requests for equipment on the 21st before we left Rapid City at 12:30 p.m. in the afternoon. We got on the road. When we got here and we took this fire, the Longhorn Complex was already 7,736 acres. That's a big fire. That's a lot of fire on the ground. There were only 12 engines that we had available to cover the 7,000 acres that was on fire here. There was only 12 engines. We only had 3 hand crews, 20-person hand crews. And we were only able to, and you can have these, I don't have enough of them, but they're incident action plans. And there was only 3 engines we could put out there that night because of when I say on the 20, when I say 12 engines, that was from before we took it to that night. And the only thing that we had left that we could put out there at night, because those guys had gone hard for those other days, and so basically we only had 3 engines to work with on a fire that was 7,736 acres. Okay, so now we say, well, why didn't they give us a bunch of resources? Well, I'm going to tell you why they didn't get resources, and that is they're coming from great distances. Okay, because we were the #2 fire in the area. The Black Hills had already started on fire. They had a fire up there called the Myrtle Fire, and at the same time, we had 12 engines. They had 9,000 acres on fire. They had 64 fire engines, and they had 6 hand crews, and they had 569 personnel assigned to the fire. So that took a lot of resources. So then when we order, where does it go? They took the closest ones because they were the biggest fire in the first one. So then engines have to come at a greater distance. The engines that are on this fire are not from, most of them from South Dakota. They're Arvada, Colorado, they're Leadville, Colorado, they're Denver, Colorado, they're Arizona. And your Rosebud folks are still assistant in fighting fire. Okay? They're still hanging in the game here on this thing. Law enforcement was incredible. You know, and getting the evacuations done. Red Cross was great doing the sheltering. And so those are some of the things that we've dealt with. It's not that we don't work, that firefighters don't want to go out and do what we do. We're trained to do that. This is my 36th year in fire, and I still like fighting fire. I still like doing good things. I still like going out and helping people in their time of need. But when you're dealt some bad weather cards, in addition to that, some of the most explosive fuel conditions right now, you're dealt that card, that isn't a favorable card for you. And then fires become beyond their threshold of control because of lack of resources. Okay? And so, when we look at this right here, this fire, I'm going to give you some good news here. Okay? I'm going to give you a little status of it. That's done. You guys can go home again. And that cut meat area. Alright? And what happens is, this fire last night, when it took off, it was driven by gusts to 40, 45 miles an hour, and the flame lengths were great. You saw them out there, Rodney. They're way over your head. And so what happens is, it's going to make a run with the wind. And we used to say, you know, if you double the rate of spread, how far a fire goes from point A to point B, you increase the fire line intensity 4 times. You do. So there's a point when you're not going to catch a fire that's going over 2 miles an hour. 1. 2 is when we say flame lengths, how far how high the flames are there. A simple way to equate it. You can't, when you get over 11-foot flame lengths, you can't put a firefighter right 1 foot in the black and 1 foot in the green and go direct on that fire. You cannot do that. It's not a tenable environment. And we already sent my darkest day for my fire agency, the South Dakota Division of Wildland Fire Suppression. It was last year when we buried a 25-year-old boy, sent 2 to the burn center, and it was the darkest day that I will ever face, and I will never put a firefighter in front of a fire like that with flame lengths and the intensity levels that are that great. Okay? It's impossible to have a favorable outcome going direct on that fire. It is. So anyway, good news. Let's talk about good news stuff. This fire made a mad run up toward 18 last night. First started going this way, and then the winds pushed it, as the thunderstorm started to move around, Darren can explain that, they pushed it the other way and started pushing north. Alright? So, from here, all the way around here, all the way down to here is all stopped and mopped up. And we're mopping it up right now. That forward advancement is stopped on that fire. Okay? That's not a big problem for us anymore. The fight is still over in here. When it came up on the flats, that's an easier fire to pick up, isn't it? Because it's flat, and it's not going to spread with the effect of slope. Moving up a hill, fire goes up the hill 16 times faster than it does downhill. So when it hits the flats up there, and it gets in here, okay, at that point, we can go in with dozers. We can go in with motor graders. We can do a lot of stuff. We can mobile pump it with engines. We can do a lot to stop it here. But when it gets in these draws, okay, with the terrain, the heavy fuels in there, it becomes more problematic. This is still a problem area for us in here. This new start on the other side down here, which is near BIA Road 5, was a new start from lightning, and it is a little bit of a problem for us right now. But the good thing you have going, well, the bad thing is, and Albert's a friend of mine, he's got Sundance going up here, right? So we're going to have to watch that. If I have to pull him out of there, I'm going to call Albert and Emily and say, we're not doing it, you got to move. But at this point, this is still moving a little bit, and I don't want it to move over here toward the Sundance ground. Okay, so this becomes a problem for us. But here's the good thing. Since we have this fire now, we have lots of air assets, and that means you go out there now, you're seeing 2 UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters flying right now. And dumping a lot over here on this fire. This is our primary thing we're trying to stop right now. And the UH-60s have 660-gallon buckets. Okay, so that's a fire engine is what? 300 gallons, maybe 500 gallons. They're taking like a whole fire engine and dumping water each time they dump. They're dumping more than a fire engine drop on that. 660 gallons. Okay. We have heavy air tankers. We have hot shot crews, type 1 crews working in here. So we have finally, we've caught up with the resources we need to do the job in this area. Okay. Finally, it's caught up, and we're still placing resource orders, but we're starting to gain the upper hand. Now the bad news is, and he's going to do that, he's the bad news guy, the weather guy, and he's going to talk a little bit about the day we're facing today and what that could look like. And Shane can talk a little bit. He's not my Grim Reaper. He's not going to go even worse, I hope. But he can talk about some possibilities of where this thing could go, and but we're hoping that we're making doing some good things today. But it's all dependent on that one thing that's going to, weather is the biggest factor that drives fire. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Dale. Thanks, sir.
I'm very familiar with the territory down here. I also work for the state of South Dakota. I'm their state fire meteorologist. I work with your fire management officer, Dane Cook, quite often, and I have a lot of conversations about the weather that you have going down here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened yesterday and kind of what led to the fire growth, the extreme fire growth that we saw on both the northwestern and northeastern sides of our fire. Yesterday afternoon, we were seeing northeasterly winds. Okay, so the wind was coming this way, and it was pushing the fire down here to I think it's Little White Creek, Spring Creek down south, and it was pushing the fire down that way. Now we had uncontrolled edge, but we were working a lot of dozers and hand crews trying to tie up this edge. About 8 o'clock last night, I saw some thunderstorms developing southwest of Valentine, south of Merriman, down in western Cherry County, Nebraska. Anytime you guys get thunderstorms down there, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they'll move up to the area, right? So I called up our forces and I said, hey, in about an hour, hour and a half, you guys are going to see some thunderstorms coming up. Well, it's been really, really hot and dry, right? We're talking 100 degrees with 20% relative humidity. That makes cloud bases really high in the atmosphere. So when the rain starts falling out, it's falling through really dry air. And it evaporates and it cools. And when it hits the ground, it's just like dumping water out of a bucket. The air hits the ground and it spreads out. And that's what we call an outflow from a thunderstorm. So we had these thunderstorms moving up from the southwest. They're pushing this outflow, and these outflow winds were spreading all around. And that's when we got the fire spread to the northeast. Okay, that's when it really started pushing the northeast. We had more thunderstorms develop. That pushed the fire back to the northwest and made it, and it really made it run off to the northwest here, towards the cut meat community. Well, additionally, when it ran to the east, due to those outflow winds, we did get a spot across the line. It was either a spot or a lightning strike. We're still looking at that. It does look like it was a lightning strike. And so we have some fire going on here. So now this afternoon, we've come to another problem. We had southeasterly winds this morning. We had a frontal boundary push right through the fire. Now we're getting northwesterly winds again. So now it's starting to push on the southeast side of this fire. Okay? Later in the day today, this front's going to keep moving south, and we're going to get northerly winds and finally northeasterly winds. Okay, so that's why we're so concerned about the Spring Creek community. Because if we're having these northwesterly winds now, if we get any fire spread in here and then the wind shifts to the northeast, it could push the fire down back to the southwest. And that's what we're trying to avoid. There is also the big uncertainty today and tonight is the thunderstorms that we are expecting. So if we do get any thunderstorms like that, you can expect more of those strong outflow winds and more unpredictability. But our firefighters are ready to handle that. I do have some good news. Tomorrow we're expecting a cold front to come through. Okay? Generally speaking, cold fronts bring really strong winds. I don't think this one's going to. Our winds are going to switch back to the northwest. We're going to get slightly cooler temperatures. Highs for the next 2, 3, 4 days are going to be in the low 90s. Our humidity is going to be up. But I think the most important thing we're going to see is I think we're going to see some rain, finally. Along this cold front tomorrow afternoon, we could get maybe 1/10 of an inch, maybe 2/10 of an inch on the fire. Tomorrow night, it looks even more positive for rain. So I'm hoping that we can get a good rain shower to come across our fire tomorrow and tomorrow afternoon and overnight into Wednesday night to hopefully help put this fire to bed. The rest of the week does look more favorable for firefighting with lighter winds, lower temperatures, and a bit higher relative humidity. So,
All right, about fire behavior. When we talk about fire behavior, we're looking at three things. We're looking at fuels, weather, and topography. And I got my weather expert right here in my hip pocket, so that frees me up to look at those fuels and the topography. Okay, so let's talk about those fuels. I want to back up to when this fire started. When this fire started, I looked at, we have an indice, a unit of measure, and when this fire started, it's called the energy release component, and it's an indice of how much energy is going to be released in the flaming front with those fuels. And it also symbolizes dryness. And when I looked at the ERCs for when this fire took off, we were at the 97th percentile. Now, what does that mean? Well, we were above the 97th percentile. That means we were in record territory. We've never been conditions like this before. Or if there has been similar conditions, it's only occurred 3% of the time. So that tells you how extreme the conditions were when in the fuels when this fire first took off. All right, with the fuels, the big thing that we key on is we also look at the fuel moisture, the different fuels types, and the fuels arrangements. Are there ladder fuels where it can spread from the surface into the tree canopies? And some of the most challenging parts out here have been in these finger drainages, in the canyons, where we have those ladder fuels and the fire being spread from the grass into the tree canopies. Now, that being said, part of my job is to keep, firefighter and public safety. My job is to look at those flame lengths, how fast the fire is moving, look at spotting, so we can keep everybody safe. Joe talked about how closely they could work against those flame lengths. And the other part of my job is, based on what I see, it gives our operational folks the ability to develop different strategies and tactics. You know, where can we use that engine and dozer? Where can we use that aircraft? Okay, out here in this country, with the thunderstorm downdrafts coming and the extremely dry fuels, we have severe drought. Our flame lengths in the grass are, they're at a maximum. They're 8-9 feet. You get into the timber and the brush, they can go from 9 to 22 feet. And if it gets in the crowns, well, what's the height of that tree? Well, it's a 40-foot tree and it's going another 40 feet above it. You have 80-foot flame lengths. So you can see with torching and crowning, 50, 60, 70-foot flame lengths, we can't put people in there safely. I mentioned spotting. When it gets into those crowns, it will spot out, and with what we're seeing on this incident, up to 1/3 of a mile.
That's how far a flaming ember will travel.
Okay, now the ember will travel 1/3 of a mile. We have another indice that we use. It's called probability of ignition. And what that means is, if I go out and drop 10 matches on the ground, how many of them will start? If I said our probability of ignition is 10%, one of those matches will start. What we're seeing out here is 90% probability of ignition. So 9 out of 10 of those embers landing are starting spot fires. And when we got crews out there, it's a real situational awareness issue. Rates of spread. Joe talked about 1 to 2 miles per hour. When we get those thunderstorm downdrafts, and if the canyons are in a line with that wind, we can go up to 6 miles an hour. That's how quickly we can move. All right, now I wanted to talk maybe a little bit about probabilities. Yes, this is our major concern. And with the weather that Darren described, our concern is that this fire will want to continue to spread in a southerly direction, southeast. But if you notice here, we got the Crazy Horse Canyon right next to it. And we also have fire down in here, right next to the Crazy Horse Canyon. He talked about maybe the winds becoming northeast. If those winds come northeast, we have the drainage and our winds in alignment. And if there's any expansion here, it's going to be this direction. And this is how come we're hesitant to get anybody back into these areas, because we got to get this secure and buttoned up. Another area of potential concern, right now as we speak, they're trying to secure this off from the Beats Creek Reservoir down Fire Trail 70, and they're burning that out. Burning that out means they're bringing a drip torch and they're just trying to clean up those fuels, so when the fire gets to the fire trail, there's no fuel to burn and it will go out. Up here in this area, this continues to burn together. Like Joe said, out here in the flats, we can do a lot of good because our flame lengths are generally in that 6 to 8 foot range, and we can throw a lot of heavy metal at it. We can put engines on it. Air tankers are very effective. The air tankers are less effective because, you know, if we have flame lengths 9 to 20 some feet in torching, they're not that effective. So that's all I had on my notes, and if you had questions, I'd be happy to ask.
Things when we talk about it, you know, we know what your concerns are. We do. I mean, I was here for the horse lifting fire. I was you know, one of the big one we always hear is, I'm a South Dakota, all right? So you hear forage in range in cattle. That's a real concern. It is. Okay? We don't like to go light fire to burn out the fuels in the advance of the flaming front. We don't get, that isn't something we really like to do. Because there's a risk involved for that, isn't there? We put fire on the ground, what if it goes over the control line and lands a spark over there, and then we got some problems, don't we? But sometimes the intensity levels are so great that we have to step back to an area and then burn out that area. I understand the problems with you know, supplementing. How are you going to supplement your cattle? Where are you going to put them on a range? I understand all those problems, but I understand if we're not able to do that when we have to do it because the intensity levels are too great to go direct on it. But what happens for me at that point is if we don't burn it, Mother Nature will take it later for you. So if we can stop it, we're going to lose less than we are if you let it, if you try and go direct and kill somebody, one. Or two is to, if we're unsuccessful in doing what we are on the attack. Okay.
Hey Joe, I think that was a lot of concern out there, as you've seen the public out there last several days, and Shane, you kind of explained a little bit about the back burning and then allowing the roadways to kind of burn loose while the crews are there. And that's, you know, explaining that and why that's done.
Why that's done? Well, a lot of times, Joe talked about the flame lengths. You go to a road or to a stream or some natural break, and we will try and remove the fuels ahead of the fire before it gets there. And the thing is we're doing it under our terms and not the fire's terms, you know. But in some cases, like right now, this fire is bumping this edge, and if we don't not able to remove these fuels, it's going to spot across here. And if it gets established in here, it's going to make a run at BIA 501, and you know, could it jump the road? Yes, it could. So You know, to go direct, a lot of times it's determined by safety. If we can safely work there, we will. Because you know, you guys got a lot of forest assets, resource assets out there, but the safety and the fire behavior is dictating what we can or can't do.
What tools we can use.
Yep.
And, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. How, you're talking about, the meteorologist is talking about these northeast winds coming out, and some of them are lining up. How fast do those winds have to get prior to where the fire's gonna start rolling?
Well, I mean,
You're talking about
Yeah.
moving 2 to 6 miles an hour.
yeah, I mean, right now with the predictions in the incident action plan, this isn't today's, that was the old one on the 21st. But today, okay, the winds were supposed to be 8 to 15 with gusts to 20.
Okay.
That's what the projection was for a rate of spread of 2 miles an hour.
Okay.
Okay, so now, so that was that. Now, that wasn't the outflow, that was the general winds for the area. And the general winds are saying 8 to 15 with gusts to 20. So that's 2 mile an hour rate of spread. Now, when you get into that 6, that's when we get the thunderstorm set up. What happens is with thunderstorms, you get convective lifting. All that superheated air starts to move up, gets to a point in the air mass where it starts to condense, get real cold, and then it wants to fall out. The cold air wants to drop out. And as it comes out, it pushes the fire in many directions. And the wind speeds are going to be probably 40, 60 miles an hour.
My concern is that you're talking about cattle, some people have cattle, some people have homes that they're worried about. And the lack of communication between those people that are trying to help and the firefighters themselves. We don't all have radios, so we don't know what's going on. That's my concern, is there's some way we can get information out to people to, you know, don't go over here. If it's burning already, let it go.
The public information section will do something, but remember, as a management team comes in, okay, if you guys are out there fighting fire in a certain area on the fire, our division group supervisor is going to come over you and physically talk to you and say, not a good time to be here, all of us are leaving, you ought to go. And I can't tell you, you know, really, you guys, I can't tell you, and I don't know what I do, myself. Okay, what's our most valuable asset? Our home, right? One of them. So when you're looking at that right there, your home, I can't tell you to leave your property to fight fire, not to stay there and do what you're doing. You know, if the police can come through and say to do that, yes. But if you got, you know, you got your stuff out. You know, I see some of the ranches have, you know, you got a pump package on the back of a flatbed, all that other stuff. I can't tell you to leave. But if my division group suit comes up to you and says, we're leaving, I'd say it'd be time for you to leave too. Okay.
But let's talk about our priorities. Right now we're operating with 3 primary priorities. First one is firefighter and public safety. Second one, protection of private property. Now that includes homes, cattle, animals, infrastructures, fences, whatever's on private property, trees, bushes, whatever. That's our number 2 priority. Our number 3 priority is the resource values out there, like the trees, maybe some of the springs in the watersheds. You know, and up there too is cultural resources. That's a very high priority if it's on private land or agency land.
But that's that, like I say, that I guess the best answer to that is, you know, you're gonna be out there doing that stuff, and report in, tie in with one of the team members that comes out there, and introduce yourself, and say, look, we're out here. We want accountability because we don't want you. And I'd say tonight, you can see it happening. It's gonna set the cards are dealt. It's gonna set up the same way it did last time. You know, it's going to be late in the afternoon, early evening, it's going to start to set up. We got history now. I mean, the fire's the truth. It's telling you what it wants to do and what it is doing. And when we say the fire's the truth, look at it. Every afternoon, the thunderstorms come in, and you know what? They just miss us. The one last night, just missed us by about 4 or 5 miles. I'm about to get some good drop of rain down.
Every night.
Every night, just to the north. And that's what happens. So, you know, I'd be very cautious being out there because that fire can become an angry fire very quickly.
John?
Mr. Wool, with that new start on the east side of that road there, what do you think the deal for St. Francis is? Do you think that poses a big danger for St. Francis?
You know, right now, we're hitting it really hard, and I'm trying to be optimistic that this afternoon that we're going to have some good news on it. But in the long term, if it really started to go on us, it may. So, but and let me explain something to you. I'm going to add on to my comment there. We're not reactionary. We're being proactive. Okay. We already know. We have an 11 o'clock meeting with the stakeholders every day. Okay, that means law enforcement, Office of Emergency Management, Red Cross, and we've already, there's an evacuation process in place, how to be triggered, and when it gets triggered, who will do the evacuations, who will start the sheltering efforts, and all these things. That's already pre-planned out. We've already called them. They've already called our structure protector group supervisors. Looked at them. They're called perimeter protection zones. And when the fire gets to a certain point, we pull the trigger, and then we call the Grace, and we call the PSAP, the 911 center, and we say, Grace, time to go. She calls emergency management. That triggers in the sheltering component, because when they go, you got to put them someplace. And so all these things are all we're catching up a little bit. We're pre-planning. We've already got know what we'd have to do if it starts to go that way, and time frames.
So in your opinion right now, St. Francis is pretty much okay?
So far so good. I haven't moved the Sundance with that yet either.
Good.
So that's, that one I'm kind of biting my nails on. I'm not sure what I want to do with that.
Joe, can you mention that earlier? Yeah. The engine's coming from all over the country. I think the little one from Oregon. So how much time do we have now?
I don't know, I don't have that with me right now, but I would say we've got probably 400 or 500 people on the personnel. If I haven't brought that fact sheet with me, I could.
Yeah, but we're getting more and more every day.
Oh, we got a bunch of stuff. I'd say we've got at least
probably close to 60 injuries. There was 20 on Gulf and Lima last night alone, in those two divisions, 20 each.
So we're close to 500-600 personnel.
So we're looking at the, let's say we can get the engine, let's say we got the fire contained and let's say tomorrow. What are we looking at for that? How many days to mob up and clean up? What we're looking at? How far down the road are we looking at to get everything squared away?
You know, we're doing a lot. We're doing a lot of weather. But I can tell you what I'd like to see happen. Really, what I'd like to see happen is I'd like to see the rainstorm come through tomorrow night, and that kind of stops a lot of what we got going on. And then I'd say, three days. Yeah, so we probably have another 4 days, and then we'll go back to the BIA home unit. Okay, some outbuildings were lost last night, and they were 2 big hay barns and 3 small outbuildings. Okay, that was over toward Bennett County side. So that was the only thing, but we have not lost a home.
Any cattle or?
Cattle, we're still assessing that right now, and what we're going to do is we're going to put one of our helicopters up to one of the range peaks, and we're going to fly it maybe this afternoon, first thing tomorrow, see where all these cattle are, because our concern's the same as yours. Well, you know, number one, you're going to have some kind of sorting thing going on, because they're all mixed together now. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to leave them out there if they're wandering the burn area, it's hot, there's no water or whatever it is. So we're going to implement that pretty quick, get in the air, and start to see his range guys are going to start moving some cattle and getting them out of, or at least know where they are and then start to do it.
Another thing, considering, and I split here and Cleve last night pasture, and a lot of us, you know, you can see on all the pasture land out there. We'll have to look at where we're going to pasture some of these cattle. Let's talk about some ideas, but I could looking at that also.
Domestic animals, talk about those. We're working on domestic animals right now we had a meeting at 11 again. Red Cross, us, Todd County Emergency Management there. And we're already talking about that process would work. Our worry is in that Spring Creek area, those domestic animals. So Grace was talking about taking some officers that that she has. They're not in a police function. They're still police officers, but they're not uncertified is what they call it. They're going to go out, and if the plant, and we're working, it's not cement yet. Okay, what'll happen is they'll go in, they'll get the animals, domestic dogs, cats, whatever it is, bring them right to the roadblock. What is it? Rescue, I forgot what it is.
Yeah, some animal rescue.
Animal rescue, what it is, we'll pick them up, tag them, put it in crates, and then they go to Butler, help me with that one, Butler Veterinary down in Valentine. And so people can pick them up down there, We'll see how that works. We're aware of it, and we most certainly, I know that it's not a comfortable feeling being in a evacuation center. I was in one. On my own fire, I had to evacuate my own family. That was a family fun inside Black.
Yeah, how many families are they go back into their own homes now, or?
No, only the meat cut area. Those are the only ones. There's 102 people in the shelter right now, and the only ones that can go back, there's probably 20 from that meat cut area, I think. Is that right?
They're in the shelter, yes.
Yeah.
The meat cut area, so they can go back into their own.
Cut meat, upper cut meat, yeah, sorry. Sorry. What cheat you guy, I can't. No, only in that area I just don't.
Okay, well, the fire went through some of these other areas, there's like homes or whatever, can those people go back into their homes, or?
Anything over here right now in this area, no, because it has the ability to spread. We're going to start. We got to watch this too. But all the folks up here, can we go back? That's the only area because this is all secure. This is all out. We're mopping it up, so this area is no longer a threat.
Good.
We're making arrangements for, especially our elders, to be going to the casino.
Right, yeah.
Especially the ones with health problems, or asthma, heart, whatever. We're making them arrangements already.
Yeah, so we're talking with Robert West, and some of the details that we get later on, to get down to EPT.
Do we have accountants taking care of all of that, tracking all that?
Well, yeah, we have to, yeah. I think one of the things that getting in this emergency resolution we're gonna do, we have to talk about that. And Joe, you know about FEMA and all that.
I do.
Yeah.
And a FEMA declaration, when you have, and it's going to be, you got plenty enough homes to qualify for a FEMA declaration. And I'm not completely clear on how it works on the reservation, but in the state of South Dakota, for us, if we had about 100 to 200 homes threatened, we call FEMA in Denver, and we file an initial declaration, and we say that there's this many homes being threatened, and we need assistance. And we get a grant. And what happens is that pays for 75% of the qualifying costs of your incident. So you take all your costs from the incident, and basically you get reimbursed about 75%. Okay? So that would be good, and I understand, Mr. Chair, you're working on that diligently.
Yeah. And Bill did call FEMA?
Yeah, I got a hold of FEMA in Denver.
Okay, so it looks like we're doing some good stuff right there. You guys, the only thing I can say from my past experience is, and we're going to help you out because you're going to get a document package. The BI agency is going to get a document package which is real complete and accounted for. It's all computerized and everything else. And it will capture all the fire costs on this incident for us being here and some of the suppression costs before. So that document package will go to clean, and that will capture all of the incident costs while we were here. So and what I say is, for us is document, because when they come in, what they do, FEMA comes in, they sit down and they send a person in, and they will sit there and go through your documents, and they'll ask some questions, some they'll disqualify, some they'll say, yeah, it's qualifying cause. Okay.
Yeah, we've had them here before.
Have you? Yeah.
Pretty meticulous there. Yes, Willie?
Mr. Lowe, this afternoon, as far as right now, with the uppercut meat containment, what's the total percentage? Did you say 20% that's currently on fire that's being contained?
You know, I'll frame it, if I could, sir, frame it just a little different way. When we look at containment, we were at 25% yesterday, but now remember the fire doubled in size.
Right,
so I'm still saying we're at 25%. But the big news is that the first fire, which was the Longhorn fire, should be near Ghost Hawk. Should be done today. That should be completely contained. So then all we're looking at is having to deal with is one big fire here because they're going to burn together.
Some crazy work.
No, we don't know. We don't want that one going anywhere. We want to keep that about what it is now, 300 acres or whatever. I'm talking about the big one, which was Iron Shell beads. When they burn together, that will be, and I don't have the exact because they just got out of the helicopter and GPS and I haven't had a chance to look at the acreage, but it's 25,000 acres plus. And containment tonight, I'm going to get with those folks tonight, but I would say you're going to bump that containment figure way up with all that stuff on the north side of that fire. You're going to be in the 40 to 50% containment range, I think. I'm doing my fuzzy math right now. But you see the whole north side of that fire stopped, contained. You just got to mop it up. So that's the good news there. That horse-looking fire, you guys captured me. I mean, my first sweat in South Dakota was at Albert's house, and Harold and all that. And you became part of me at that point. And, so I felt pretty good coming back here because I knew a little bit about it. I knew the turf. I knew how beautiful that Rosebud Timber Reserve is, and we want to do our best to put this thing together too. Just like that. Okay.
You had a lot of loss of trees, but there's also some that they survived. Right?
Yeah, you know, let's talk about it. That's a good point. You know, when we look at that timber reserve over there, I mean, it's an incredibly beautiful place. It's a little jewel here in this part of the area. What happens is when the fire goes through there, you know, there hadn't been a lot of stuff that was cleaned up underneath there because it just takes money and time, right? So as a fire moves through there, if it stays underneath the trees in the understory, it burns all the bad stuff up. Okay, that's under there, and the heavier fuels and the small trees that are trying to grow and compete to take away from the other ones. And if we'd say if 50% of the tree, you know, you get it scorched, you know, the fire comes up underneath and it's scorched. Okay, 50%, if less than 50% of the tree is scorched, then that tree will live. Okay, so if you look at that, all those trees aren't going to die. And some will, and some won't. But in general, what I'm saying is there's areas that it's not going to do such a bad thing. Now, the one thing that fire does do is it puts nitrogen back in the soil. Okay, when it goes through an area. Okay, and the only thing is on that one is that you need rain later to make the grass grow, but it should come back pretty hard next spring.
Okay. Any more questions for Joe?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Your assessment that you didn't